It's essential to have standards in the workplace to support the health and safety of staff. The British Standards Institution, the UK's national standards body, has launched a British standard for menstruation, menstrual health and menopause in the workplace. From BSI Group, I'm joined now by Susan Taylor-Martin, CEO, and Anne Hayes, Director of Standards. Thanks both so much for joining us. First of all, Susan, how has the modern workplace changed and why are discussions about menopause so important?
The workplace has just changed dramatically, even over kind of the period that I've been working in so many different ways. But one of the big changes has definitely been female representation in the workplace. And if we think back to the 1950s, it's about 40% of working women worked outside of the home. That's now more than 70%, so a big shift. Here in the UK, 50% of the labour force are female. So menstruation, menstrual health, menopause, they're certainly not kind of fringe topics of discussion. They're really very much kind of mainstream. And I think from a menopause perspective, what's interesting is that that age group is the fastest growing chunk of our labour force. Mm-hmm. And so if we've got issues that kind of affect the productivity and the engagement of that chunk of the labour force, we've got a real problem actually economically and within organisations. So this has really come to the fore as a topic for discussion.
And how is BSI helping them?
So what we've really focused on is the standard that you mentioned earlier, because a standard is effectively kind of like potted best practice. And we've developed that standard not on our own. We've brought all sorts of different organisations, whether it's government bodies, experts, academics, activists in the space, to come and help us work out what should organisations do to help make sure that the workers that they've got that kind of fit that perimenopausal, menopausal kind of age bracket are really being supported in the right way. So we think that standard is full of really actionable, practical steps that organisations can take to help those workers.
So Anne, tell us a little bit more about that standard and how it can help those organisations.
The first thing the standard does is really actually tries and busts some myths. You know, these are the things you may have heard about menopause. These are the things that are not necessarily true. The second thing I would say it does is it really encourages organisations to treat each person as an individual. And I think the third thing that's really important is it's enabling managers within organisations and giving guidance to managers in organisations about how they can have those conversations, because actually we're not used to talking about it. It's really weird to be sitting here with you and Susan actually having this conversation. You know, it's not something we've ever had to do in our working life. And suddenly we have the opportunity, and suddenly we want to enable young managers to deal with older people who may be going through this, or young people who it happens to very early, to have those conversations. It also then goes down into some details around sort of how you can encourage people to think about different ways that you can solve people's problems, be that the hours they work, the clothes they might wear, where they sit, do they need to be in the office, and just changing shift patterns, but really trying to build on the flexibility that we've all learnt out of COVID to be more flexible in how you approach people.
So lots of different things going on. How do you think, Susan, work like this can benefit both the businesses that you're working with and also the wider economy as well?
I think it's a huge opportunity for us, because actually a third of the female population is in that menopausal period. It's about 5 million workers, in fact, are kind of going through menopause. We know from research that we've done, a third of those are thinking of reducing their hours. A third of them are thinking about leaving the workplace completely. So if we've got a standard with some really helpful guidance for organisations to think we can change this dynamic, think about the impact that that could have in terms of productivity, in terms of reducing absenteeism, which is an issue, in terms of kind of retaining experienced women at that point when actually many of them are kind of at their most senior, you know, real leaders in the organisation who can be mentors to the generations coming up. So I think there are many ways in which it really benefits both the individual but absolutely the organisation that they're working in.
Very interesting to hear from you both. Susan Taylor-Martin and Anne Hayes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.